Okay, we're going to talk about sculpting a little bit. Now in 3D printing, sculpting is not really that important. You can, however, do and add a little bit of fine detail to your models that might show up in your print. For the sake of our garlic press, I'm going to just print my initial right on the top, but I'm going to do it using sculpting. Now, the first thing I need to do is select my lid that I'm going to sculpt on, and I'm going to go into edit mode. One of the things we need to do is add vertices. I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to hit subdivide. Now that's subdivide, and it divides everything in half. I'm going to do that a few times, so we get a good number of vertices to work with, maybe one more. Now the problem with this is the more vertices you add, the slower it's going to make your computer. Really be careful as far as how much you want to do that. So now that we have a good high number of vertices, I'm going to go back into object mode. You can see it really looks no different. Now down here I can change the mode. I can change from object mode to sculpt mode. And now it gives me a new set of menus. Now with sculpting, you have a few different tools at hand. This red circle around the mouse is really where the sculpting is going to take effect. And then over here you have different tools. You can do like smoothing, you can model like clay, you can flatten out, you can bulge, you can brush, you can do all sorts of things. But depending on the level of detail, not a lot of it's going to show up in your print. It's good to know anyway. So the one thing we should do is make sure your strength is turned up high. 1 is the highest value you can do, so we're going to go with that. The radius is how large a circle or how large an area do you want to affect. For now, we're going to leave it at, say, 35. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to print my initial with the mouse just by clicking. And you can see as I click, it raises up all those little vertices we created. That way, hopefully, when it prints this detail, this raises up just enough to show up in my print. That looks alright. My initial in the top of my garlic press. Off camera, I finished up the model, so I've added a handle here. And I've added the piston screw, which is inside here. Let's go back to object mode. Deselect everything. If I go into wireframe, you can see this screw goes all the way down, and there's a little piston at the bottom. If I hide everything else, case and the lid, you can see it's the same method we used before. Used the screw modifier. I just created 1, 2, 3 all the way up here. I took the top and I made a bit of a square shaped so that I can fit a handle on top of this. Now, this is not one object, this is actually 2 objects, because when I go to print this, I'm not going to be able to print this all in one shot. Because like I said, we're going to start at the bottom, it's going to print up here, and when it gets up to the top where the handle is, the plastic's just going to droop all over the place. So I've separated them out. If I turn off the screw, you can see this is its own separate object, and if I go into object mode, you can see I just basically tack that right onto the top of my screw. It's also done this way because when you go to assemble the whole thing, in order to get the lid on, you got to put the screw through the lid. You're not going to be able to do that with the handle on. That's the other reason why it's 2 separate objects. I'm going to set that to flat. There we go, that looks nicer. Now, one last thing before we wrap up. Again, make sure you check all your normals in all your objects. Let's go. Okay, no non-manifolds showed up there. The lid. Let's go into edit mode here. Deselect everything. Non-manifolds, good, we have none there. And let's check our base. Deselect. We're really good to go here. I'm going to give that a quick save. When it goes to print, obviously it's going to have to sit on the build platform of the printer. So we need to be conscious of what side is down when you go to place your objects. What I like to do, if we were to get rid of a lot of these, if you remember we started out with this grid, I like to pretend that this grid is my build platform. Even though it's not really the size of the platform, this is the 0 mark, this is the ground level. So whatever object we're going to print, we need to make sure that the flat side, or the flattest side, is the one facing down. We need to make sure we put that right on the ground like that. If we look at it from the side, you can see the red mark is kind of the 0 mark. It's actually a little bit below that. The slicing software that we are going to use to convert to the printer will automatically compensate for that so that it'll put it flat on the platform, so you don't have to worry about that. But just be mindful that this is the flattest side. We're going to put it face down. Let's rotate this by 90. this isn't really reasonable, but you wouldn't print the object like that because there really isn't anything to rest on. This thing's just going to flop over when it prints. That's why you want the flattest side down. You want the most surface area on your printing platform. I'm going to say this object is ready to print.